Well, late yesterday, the president, in a surprise announcement, it apparently surprised even some people at the White House. It wound up coming on television in the middle of last night's broadcasts of the evening news programs. But anyway, the president announced a compromise that had been reached on extending tax cuts and unemployment benefits. The question today is, can Nancy Pelosi, the Democratic Speaker of the House, and Harry Reid, the Democratic leader in the Senate, get Democrats to go along? Because a lot of Democrats are saying this morning they think the president may have caved to the Republicans. Can he now get them to vote for this plan? We're going to talk about it with the National Journal's Major Garrett and Politico's Jonathan Allen. And Kiki Ryan is going to be here with our series Plugged In. We'll hear all about Washington's holiday parties and a certain CBS anchor who is set to make an appearance on the hit show Glee. Clue, not me. And we'll get a preview from the show's star, Matthew Morrison. But first, let's go to Major Garrett, who joins us from National Journal, and Jonathan Allen. Major, how did all this news, how did it come down here? I mean, we were all sitting around here waiting, and they kept putting off this announcement. Nobody could kind of figure out what was going on. And then the president comes out and makes the announcement right in the middle of the evening news programs. The whole thing seemed a little disorganized, but that's, I guess, beside the point. Is this significant? Is this a real compromise? And does it have a chance of passing?
Well, Bob, I think the disorganization in the presentation is important because it reflects a disorganization in communication between the White House and the lame duck Democrats the president's going to rely upon to push this deal through. House Democrats had no buy-in to this plan, neither did Senate Democrats. And the response has been, I think you could most charitably describe it, from senior Democrats as being muted. They're not enthusiastic about this deal, and many rank-and-file Democrats have already expressed their outright opposition to this. Even some centrist Democrats that you might think would be inclined to support this deal because of its emphasis on job-creating tax cuts, both through the payroll tax and income tax, are not big fans of it. Mark Warner of Virginia has already said he's skeptical, possibly opposed to it. Now, Joe Lieberman, independent of Connecticut, said he supports it. But there's a great deal of disarray within both rank-and-file caucuses of Senate Democrats and House Democrats. And I would also point out, Bob, that Republicans are saying nice things about it at the leadership level, but you haven't heard outright support from rank-and-file Republicans, too. So I don't think this cake is baked. I think framework is a way of saying nobody knows where the votes are, and no one's sure if this is going to pass.
Jonathan, explain to us, to the folks who don't follow this minute by minute and day by day, the president announced a compromise. Compromise with who?
That's the important part. He made a compromise with Republican leaders in the House and Senate. And in fact, news of this started to leak out yesterday while congressional Democratic leaders were at the White House meeting with Vice President Joe Biden, meeting with President Obama, and presumably getting the bad news. It started to leak out before their conversations were even done. So this is a situation here where the president has essentially cut his own party in Congress out of the deal making. He's going to ask Speaker Pelosi and Harry Reid to put this compromise on the floor of the House and the Senate, even though a majority, probably a very overwhelming majority of the Democratic caucus in both chambers is completely opposed to it. I mean, the idea, even a couple of years ago, that you would find even a handful of Democrats that didn't believe in higher tax rates for income over $250,000 a year per couple is odd. I mean, this was something that unified the Democrats very much so when President Obama was running for president. He campaigned on raising taxes on these folks, and already we're seeing the consequences of elections, not just the 2010 midterm that brought Republicans or will bring Republicans into power, but also the consequences of the 2012 election that President Obama is getting ready for. Obviously, he didn't want to be seen as raising taxes in a recession, or at least didn't want the prospect of those taxes to rise even for a day on middle class and lower class earners.
Well, let me just ask you this. I mean, you mentioned Nancy Pelosi. She put out a press release this morning, or at least her office did, and basically said this outlines the Republican and Democratic Commission positions on all of this, but it in no way or no how gave any kind of endorsement to it. Do you think that she's going to be able to go to the floor with something like this? If she does, she doesn't seem to be rushing to the floor right now with it.
She's certainly not rushing to the floor with it. That she has in the past including with war funding bills, put things on the floor that she didn't particularly support, that weren't going to get the majority of Democrats, but were things that the president had asked for. I think that's certainly a possibility coming up. It's interesting, not only did her office put out a statement like that, but also behind closed doors, or actually on a conference call over the weekend, when she laid out the options to her fellow Democratic leaders, I'm told she basically said, this is what the White House is talking about, didn't endorse what the White House was saying, and heard back pretty harshly from her fellow Democratic leaders that they didn't like it a bit.
Major, before I get to you, I'm going to play the soundbite. This is what President Obama said yesterday, and there's one intriguing little sentence here that, Major, I want to ask you about. Okay. Let's hear it. Let's hear what the president said when he announced this.
So we cannot play politics at a time when the American people are looking for us to solve problems. And so I look forward to engaging the House and the Senate, members of both parties, as well as the media, in this debate, but I'm confident that this needs to get done, and I'm confident ultimately Congress is going to do the right thing. Thank you very much, everybody.
So what's he talking about? He looks forward to negotiating with the media. I got some news for the president. I don't get to vote on this. What's he talking about?
No, neither do I. Neither do I, Bob. But what the president, I think, was betraying there was a sense that he knows he has a communications battle ahead of him, and he's going to have to persuade reluctant Democrats in the House and Senate to go through with this deal. And there's some internal Democratic politics going on here, Bob. Much of this deal is shaped not only for the president's reelection in 2012, but also to help the 21 Democrats who are up for reelection in 2012 and the 2 independents who caucus with the Democrats. Now, one of them, Bernie Sanders of Vermont, already opposes it, so it's not aimed toward him. But in the main, it's helped to allow the centrist Democrats elected in 2006 who are up in 2012. Well, listen, House Democrats in this Congress with President Obama cast a lot of tough votes and saw many of them either die or get radically changed in the democratically led Senate. House Democrats are really not in a mood after losing 63 seats to do everything they can to help out 2012 Democrats who they don't believe gave them the sufficient help in this term of Congress, and that in action led to some of their defeat. So there's a lot of internal Democratic politics going on here too. I'm also told structurally, Bob, and this is important to get this passed, this bill will be brought up first in the Senate. So Senate Democrats are going to get the first bite of the apple on this. If they pass it, then it's going to come to the House. There's a couple of tax bills pending in the Senate, so I'm told strategically the idea is to get this passed by the Senate Democrats, kick it over to the House, and deliver it to them, essentially a fait accompli, which will be left with Speaker Pelosi saying, this is your only option. If you want to keep middle-class tax cuts that are existing now permanent, this is the only chance you're going to get. Rally your caucus, get as many votes as you can, and see what you can do.
All right. Well, Jonathan, just give us a horseback guesstimate here. Do you think that this thing can pass?
I do think that it can pass. I think ultimately when faced with the prospect of those middle-class tax cuts expiring, it's a very difficult thing if it gets to the floor for Senate Democrats to vote against, for a lot of House Democrats to vote against. I think you're going to hear a lot of moaning and crying and anger and tough talk about how Democrats really want to try to blame Republicans for the tax cuts expiring. But at the end of the day, if these bills make it to the floor, I think it's very difficult for many Democratic lawmakers to vote against them. I think with the support of Republicans, and we still have to see them say that there's certainly a middle coalition that can do that in both chambers.
All right. And Major, do you think it can pass?
I think it can pass, but I would not eliminate the possibility, Bob, of this going through a TARP 1 kind of experience where it comes to the floor, it doesn't pass, everyone panics, regalvanizes, and does it a second time. I would not rule out that possibility. I would say it's on the outer edge of likelihood, but I don't rule it out.
All right. Well, I'm going to thank both of you.